Do not move to Winston-Salem, North Carolina until you've considered these 5 things. Today, we're gonna go through the most common mistakes we see, especially first-time homebuyers making before moving to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Stick around, we're gonna go right through it. So the number one mistake that I see with first-time buyers moving here to Winston-Salem, North Carolina is not establishing a clear budget. That all starts with the price of the home, taxes, insurance, maintenance costs, your down payment, closing costs. That all becomes part of one big picture. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is to work with a good, reputable local lender, which of course I can help refer you to those folks. And the reason you want to work with somebody local, in my opinion, is that if you're with a big national lender, you can just sort of become lost in the mix, where you just sort of become a number. If they're working with thousands of other people, you may not get that individualized attention that you may need, especially as a first-time home buyer. And when you're working with a national lender, although they may be licensed in North Carolina, they may not see contracts from that state all that often. So they don't understand things fully, like due diligence, making sure we hit our timeframes for that, and appraisals and everything the like. So you want to make sure that you've got somebody who's in those contracts every single day and knows them inside and out. The other thing you want to make sure of when you're working with a local lender is that there are different programs for every buyer out there, whether you're going to be a conventional home buyer, a USDA loan, which has a 0% lending, 0% down payment on those options, whether you're a VA buyer and you have your VA eligibility certificate, FHA, the list goes on and on. But beyond that, with first-time home buyers, you can also qualify for different down payment assistance programs like North Carolina Housing and Finance Agency. Also different lenders like First National Bank has one now where if you buy in certain areas here in North Carolina, you can get up to $15,000 in grant money, which as long as you stay in the home 3 years or more, you don't have to pay that back. And that's an important stipulation when you're looking at North Carolina Housing and Finance Agency, First National Bank, whatever it is to know what those repayment schedules look like as far as when those grants and gifts will be forgiven. Because North Carolina Housing and Finance is a much longer term, usually 15 years. And it starts to be prorated after about the 10th year. So years 10 through 15, you get like a 20% proration on that. So if you don't plan to stand in that home long term, that may not be the best option for you. But the point being, there's a million different things you need to go ahead and take into account here. And having somebody who's gonna be available to you outside of business hours, we usually try to deal between 9 and 5. But if you're dealing with a big bank, normally they're gonna shut down right at 5 o'clock. If you're working with somebody who's local, who is a mortgage originator here or a mortgage broker who has options to more than just one specific lender, they're gonna be available to you nights and evenings if something comes up. So establishing that budget is the biggest thing we need to do, especially as a first-time buyer. The second biggest mistake that I see homebuyers making when they're moving here to Winston-Salem is skimping out on inspections. Guys, this is probably the biggest investment you've made so far in your life. So let's not make harsh decisions over $200–300 here or there. I understand budgets can be tight. However, we want to make sure that we have factored this in. Again, back to number one, into our budget is making sure that we have allocated enough money for inspections. At a minimum for most buyers, I'm going to recommend a whole home inspection, a radon test, and a termite/pest inspection. Now, a lot of you probably have never heard about radon. We can go further into that in another video, but to test for it's usually around $200. If you need to mitigate for that system, it's usually going to be about $2,000. So for that $200 investment, if there's a $2,000 issue, generally speaking, the sellers are going to take care of that. So do I want you to pay $200 now or $2,000 later? Your choice there. This is going to go even further if you're an FHA or VA buyer. Going back to our last one, establishing budgets and figuring out our loan type. If you're VA or FHA, if you are not on county or city water, you're going to need to get a water quality test to make sure that your well is supplying you good, clean drinking water. Makes sense, right? Now, if you're somebody moving here that is looking in Ardmore, maybe West Salem, something like that, where we have older homes. A lot of times you're gonna find cast iron plumbing still as your main drain line exiting the house. Why is that important? Well, cast iron over time tends to corrode. That drain line will get smaller and smaller. We also have issues with if there's a crack, the tree roots can grow into there. Sewage can start to leak out into your yard. If the tree roots clog it up and we completely get blocked up there, that can back up into your home and leave you with a smelly, expensive mess that nobody wants to deal with. So a sewer scope is going to be a great option for you. You're going to take a camera, drop it down through your main drain line, and run it out 50, 100 feet from your home, all the way hopefully to the sewer connection, and make sure that we don't have any big issues there. If we do come across a large issue, we're going to get quotes from local plumbers to go ahead and replace that section of plumbing, and talk to the sellers about whether we can get them to pay for it, cost share, whatever the case may be there. But if you're buying a home, even if it has issues, I want you to know what those are. The third common mistake that I see when people are purchasing a home here, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, is having rabbit ears. Listening to everybody in your circle that bought a home 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, last year, and all the horror stories that they have that is definitely gonna happen to you. It's gonna spook you, it's gonna freak you out. You're gonna go ahead and get paralysis by analysis, and you're never gonna buy a home. Listen, I want you to be fully informed. That's why we're gonna do a buyer consult at the beginning and make sure that you know all the steps along the way throughout the home buying process. But we also need to understand who is a good, credible source. And even though those other people in your world may have the best of intentions, they buy a house once every 10 years. Maybe they've done it once and they've been in the same home for 30 years. About the specific process itself, they may, again, have the best of intentions, but they may not be the best source of information. Your home inspectors are there to protect you. Your mortgage lender is there to protect you, and we are here to protect you. I know that's an unpopular opinion. A lot of people don't like real estate agents, and I get that. But if you listen to your Uncle Steve, who bought a home 40 years ago, who has a completely different area, let's say he's bought out in California, their construction, what they need as far as permits and things like that are completely different. If he bought that long ago, his electrical system probably looks way different. You want to make sure you're staying focused and working with somebody that you actually trust. This becomes an emotional process, and you need to have somebody by your side that you actually believe in, that you are going to have right there with you going through it all. So try to stay tuned in on those who are really, really going to guide you through this process. And then although your aunt, uncle, cousin may have a lot of input for you and they mean well, take it with a grain of salt. All right, the fourth mistake that we see here commonly is buyers not considering new construction. And why is that a big deal to you? Well, you might say, I want a big lot and it's just not gonna work for me. If that's the case, there are still builders building on larger lots, but they may or may not fall within your budget. I get that. So if a smaller lot in a community doesn't work for you, that's fine. But if that lot does work for you, let's consider new construction. A few reasons why. We already know everything's brand new. Plumbing, electrical, roof, HVAC, soup to nuts. Everything's brand new. The design is where it needs to be. You don't need to take on any rehab projects at the time. And beyond that, a lot of these builders right now are offering some pretty great incentives. If you haven't yet, check out this video that we recently did here around the Triad. Now with those incentives, a lot of times $15,000 to $20,000 currently in 2025, it opens up a lot of different options for you. You could use that to buy down your interest rate, use it for upgrades in the home, appliances, blinds, all these different things that you're not going to be able to do typically in a resale home. So something to consider there for you. You can always speak to your lender, right? You're getting these closing cost incentives already. Speak to your lender, see what an interest rate buy down might do for you if you allocated X amount towards your interest rate. How much would that buy that rate down, and how much would that change your monthly payment? Could be a big deal for you in the affordability of that home. Another reason why new construction should be considered. Not all of it is in the MLS, but currently it's making up 35% of our inventory. So if you're missing out on a third of the market, that perfect home, you may never see it. So put new construction into that filter if you can live with the lot size. So shifting gears here into number 5, that's going to be not considering homes that maybe just need some cosmetic work. And I know that sounds a little bit different from new construction, right? But again, everybody's different, and depending on your criteria, consider those homes that need a little bit cosmetic work. Why is that? Although our inventory has been steadily rising, and we're at 2.5 to 3 months of inventory right now, which is becoming a much more balanced market, especially where interest rates are, the homes that really are move-in ready, that are resale, they're in the neighborhoods that you want, a lot of those are still drawing multiple offers in some scenarios. So you don't want to get yourself into a competition that you're maybe not ready for at the moment. However, if you look at a home that maybe has a pink bedroom, a purple laundry room, something like that, I don't want you to take on a full rehab project, especially if you're not comfortable with that. But if we've gone ahead and budgeted for a little bit of repairs, and we're talking about paint, maybe some flooring, things like that that aren't structural to the house, we're not talking new HVAC systems and things like that. But just simple little things where maybe the photos don't look great online, but everything else really checks a lot of boxes for you, I think you should still go see that home. Because if it does come down to, I need a new flooring in my living area, I need to go ahead and paint the kids' bedrooms, well, what does that cost look like? Not always paying a professional. If you can go ahead and do some simple LVP flooring where it snaps into place, you may or may not be handy enough to tackle that, but I guarantee you, if you really want to spend the time on it, you can put in a little bit of sweat equity into some paint. That goes a long way. If you hire a professional painter now, it is expensive. Painting a whole home is going to be minimum $7,000 or $8,000 typically. Can definitely go higher than that. But even if you're paying room to room, you're going to spend several $100s on each room, where you might just be able to go buy that paint for 50 bucks and spend a weekend and go ahead and repaint it and have it look pretty darn good. So eliminating the homes that need a little bit of cosmetic work could be something that in the long run wasn't in your best interest, because if those homes are sitting on the market for a few weeks, those are the ones you might be able to get a little bit of a bargain on. Get them under asking, maybe get some closing costs thrown in from the seller, and so then you can go ahead and use that to improve your home, improve the marketability, and up your value. So don't just throw out all the homes that need cosmetic work right off the bat. Consider what it needs. If you believe that you could handle that, or have somebody within your network that might, brother, sister, parents, whoever might be the person within your world that can help out with that and is competent, then you should definitely consider those homes. So this is our bonus. Number 6 is we want to make sure that you have a good buyer's consultation before you get started. Don't just rush right into jumping out and looking at homes. Just like we talked about, you need to speak to a lender, everything else on that part. You need to make sure that you're with an agent who's going to be a good vibe with you personality-wise, that has the experience in the areas that you want to be, that communicates the way that you want to communicate, and has really taken the time to get to know you. This is not a 5-minute phone call. We need to get on a video chat or have you come into the office for 30 to 45 minutes so we can really get to know each other on a deeper level and make sure that we're setting you up for success in the long run by getting to know all of your preferences, why those things are important, and make sure again that we are going to be in alignment when it comes to your home search. So don't just jump right out there, see a home on Zillow, and call that agent who's there, because if you work with that agent who's probably the listing agent on that specific property, more than likely they're going to be representing the seller, not you as the buyer. So take a little bit of time, do a buyer consultation, make sure you know all the steps that are going to get you from searching the offer all the way to closing smoothly and on time. So we appreciate you checking out this latest episode of Driving Triad with the 5 biggest mistakes that people are making when they're moving right here to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Now, these are 5 that are pretty general, but they're super important. There's lots of other things along the way in the home buying process. Be sure to reach out to us if we can help you. My name is Joel, 336-582-9210, or joel@sandmanrealtync.com. Remember, don't sleep with one eye open. Buy and sell with Sandman. Take care, guys. See you on the next episode.